What's up, grinders? Welcome back to the channel. So today I just want to have a nice friendly chat between me, you, and whoever may be standing outside your window staring in right now. So we're going to talk about how my years of being an actor in the past had actually informed my methods with language learning, and some of these things I think may actually be of help to you overall. So I've previously made videos on my channel where I've showed using programming to help practice languages, but today I want to talk about acting and some of the cool things that I kind of learnt along the way and how they can be applied. Now, first up, I need to warn you that my nose is itchy as hell, so if I start rubbing it like this during the video, it's not because I've been like doing something with Elmo over here. It's just been itchy for like hours now, and I don't know why. So we're going to talk about one of the first things I learned on pretty much probably week one of going through my theatre training. And it was, I remember we were sitting down in a group and they got a bunch of experienced actors up to sit down on chairs, and they told these actors, okay, we want you to just sit there. Okay, just sit there and pretend you're waiting for something. And I remember we all sat down, we watched these actors, and they all sat down in the chairs, and they also had a bunch of others go up there, which were highly inexperienced. And the inexperienced guys were like this, they're looking around, you know, they're pretending to check their phone, their watch, whatever, etc., etc. But among the group, there was a couple who just basically sat there like this the whole time. And when we watched these guys who were just sitting there staring at who knows what, we started to like become more and more interested in this person here. It didn't matter that the other guys were doing this and, you know, looking around, scratching and stuff and, you know, pretending to read a book and changing their leg positions. They weren't interesting at all. The guy who was just sitting there staring at a wall, I presume staring at a wall, but just staring and not moving, was the most fascinating one of the lot. And what we learned from this one exercise is that less is more. And this can also be applied in language learning. So for example, when you're learning a language, try get really good at a very small subset of the language. This is both an understandability, so comprehensibility, and also actually utilizing the words that are most common within that specific niche of the language. Because if you get really, really good at a very small number of words, then you're able to utilize these in more creative ways. So one thing with me in Chinese is that I don't actually have that very big of a vocab, but I'm very good at the small amount of words that I do know, and I'm able to stretch them in ways that most people can't even imagine, and they assume that I actually know more than I do, because I've focused heavily on practicing and utilizing this very small subset of the language. So in this case, less is more. Now, obviously, my comprehensibility is a lot higher, but I have not practiced all these words. So you'll meet these people who, like, they will know maybe from Anki, they've practiced 10,000 words, okay, but they have a vague idea of these words because they've just put this one word in their deck. And they know the word, but they can't really utilize it, or when they do utilize it, they utilize it wrong. But if you've only got a very small subset of words, and you practice these very small subset of words over in like hundreds of different example sentences, you will get very good at using these and instinctively know how to use these. And this leads into the second thing, what I learned when I was doing my acting. And this is called the reaction game. So the reaction game works like this. You have a bunch of actors in a circle, and you all start jogging in a circle. So you follow the guy that's in front of you. And basically the way it works is that one of those people in the actual circle was a teacher. And as soon as the teacher made a move that was different to jogging, say turn around, turning around was the big one, but maybe move an arm or something, you had to replicate it instantly. But you didn't watch the teacher, you watched the person in front of you. And the goal of this game was to get it so that the observers who were watching this saw an instant change of the entire group. Okay, so as soon as the teacher lifted an arm, everyone did it at the exact same time. Now, it wasn't because everyone was watching the teacher. It's because everyone was so laser focused in on the person in front of them. As soon as they sensed even the most simple of changes, they just replicated. And the idea was to get out of this conscious thought of going, okay, I'm going to do this, and just be in the moment and be like, oh, it's happened, I do it. So you wanted to get to that instant reaction speed. And I talk about how we can replicate this in language learning, because you want to get to that point where you instantly react with a language. So how can you do that? Well, you got to practice it. And I made a great video. Well, I think it's great, obviously. I'm godlike, where you use audio cards. Now, these audio cards, what you would do is you'd listen to them, and your intention is not to understand it. Your intention is to instantly understand it, to be basically instinctive. And if you could instinctively understand what you heard, it means that you had that automatic reaction. You're no longer processing it. So you listen to the card. If you instantly understood it, good. You mark that card as good. But if you had to sit sit there and mull over for a moment, you don't actually know that. You're processing it in a manual way. That's not what you want. You want it to be instant. So that means you didn't get that card right. Even though you did understand it, you actually didn't get it right because your brain needed time to process it. It shouldn't be like that. It should be just, poof, I knew what it meant. As soon as I heard the sounds, I just knew. So you want to do the reaction game, and how you implement this is up to you. But basically, you want to get to that point where it's no longer any form of processing happening at all. Okay, the next is called the improv game. And basically how the improv game works is like this. You'll have two people, and it's an improvisation. Screw it. Improvise. Okay, so it's an improvised game. And how it works is like this. You have the two people. One person will say a scenario. They'll talk. They will pretend to be talking to this other person. Let's say husband and wife. And then you'll say something about the other person. And the other person is not allowed to deny whatever you say. So if the other person's like, oh my God, you broke your arm, you instantly have to go, oh, my arm. You can't go, no, my arm's fine. Because you're rejecting their offer. So you have to always accept what they say, no matter what it is, and act it out in the moment. Now, the improv game, the idea here is to get into a point where you just flow, okay? Just let it all happen and you move through this scenario and you don't try to back out of the scenario or create a way out. And the way we can do this in language learning is you stand in your room and you just play out a scenario. Just keep talking until you hit those points where you literally can't talk anymore, and try talk your way around them. Try figure out a way to talk around this topic, okay? And what you're doing here is training yourself to get creative in those words and phrases that you know in the language and bend them in ways that you previously wouldn't have thought about. Because as soon as you just stop and you're like, okay, well, can't say that anymore, I guess I'll go look that up. No. We want to actually step back and try get around that. Try figure a way around with the language that you do know. Now, it may be like this really long route, but the better you get at this, the more creative you get with the vocab that you do know. You can learn new words and stuff later on, that's fine, but get creative at that small subset. Now, last one is memorization of scripts. Now, you might think this is a little bit crazy, but let me explain it to you. So I remember I was at a film shoot one day and there was these two old actors there, and as part of filming, what you have is like this meal that happens afterwards. It's like this community meal type of thing where everyone eats, and there was these two old guys and they were just chatting away, but they were chatting away in Shakespearean English. And I was watching them in complete fascination, being, holy crap, these guys literally sound like they came out of Shakespeare's Hamlet. And I remember I asked them, like, where the hell did you guys learn to talk like that? Because I was actually learning Esperanto at the time, and I thought it was the most fascinating thing ever. And they kind of thought about it for a moment. They're like, we didn't really learn it. Like, we just had to memorize like a whole heap of Shakespearean scripts. These guys were theater actors and had been for 40 years. They had basically memorized every one of Shakespeare's scripts because that was their job. They had to play roles, and their roles were always changing. And as a result of constantly reading and practicing and using these scripts, they could now just use the language of these scripts, which is where the whole comprehensible input thing comes in, because these guys had absorbed it so much, they just spoke like it. So if you want to speak and talk in a specific way, get content and actually just memorize scripts. Practice memorizing these scripts, play out the roles within these scripts, and eventually you'll just be able to talk like the people in these scripts. So that is something that I also like to do, and I've been practicing with Let's Play videos and Chinese, because I like to just pretend I'm a Let's Player, and I'll repeat the exact same phrases and sentences as these guys, and I'm even trying to get to the point now where I've memorized segments. Now, the point is not to memorize the segment. The point is just to get good at it. Okay, that's basically a summary of the main things I learned as an actor, and I'm hoping that you guys can take some of this away and maybe apply it to your own language learning. You've probably heard about this stuff in different ways before, but maybe these analogies will also help you understand it better. Anyway, let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you all in the next video. And if you're not there, this will be your fate.